Obviously, Luis Garcia has been watching this with us as well. But Stevie, I did want to start with you. Obviously, it's a big win for them. They came into it with a big lead as well. Because of that, were you surprised to see such a strong lineup from Klopp tonight?
I was a little, but at the same time, I mean, even the fact that they brought Van Dijk on for the last 15, 20 minutes, in some ways, I guess it's smart. He's keeping everybody ticking over. Everybody's getting a decent shift without overdoing it. And it's way better than having to turn up tomorrow for training and have to train for 40 minutes or whatever. So the fact that he's doing that and the fact that they score so many goals early on means that he can just take them off when he's ready and get 5 more on. So I guess it's just smart. You're keeping everybody ticking over, get the blood flowing, don't need to bother too much with training. You can spend your time on the stuff that players don't like, you know, videos and doing set pieces and concentrating on that, and then you don't have to get them on their feet and running around.
What does the other former Liverpool man, Luis Garcia, think? Smart from Klopp tonight?
Yeah, once again, I think, and he mentioned it not long ago, that when he throw the young players into the field in a game like this one, it doesn't matter if you're going through or if you got an easy scoring in your advantage. You have to think about giving the chance to them to enjoy. If you throw all of them together, they're going to get lost at some point. Anfield is a very important crowd. You play against a team that is playing to win, and they can be in a moment of struggle. And I think that having that balance between young players and players from the first team is the way that they can enjoy it. They can feel comfortable, confident, and they can prove their value to the team. And as you can see, halftime, he changed it. He brought a couple more youngsters, but also he brought Chimica, he brought Elliot, that have already a good number of games for Liverpool. Later on, it was Van Dijk. So in the end, you try to keep the balance. And what Steve just mentioned, breathing up the competition. You want to keep the momentum. The body of these players, they are like machines. They know that they're going to play every 3 days. So that body is ready to challenge, to deliver a practice. And it's better to get involved and to have a one-on-one on a game than going to the training and just start running or just make a few exercises. So I think that once again, it's my managing, giving opportunity to everyone and keeping the tempo of the games.
Before we throw ahead to what's coming up for Liverpool now, Shaka, February 29th, Sparta Prague were 9th on your power rankings. Did you curse them?
Kind of looks like that. No. They were flat. I'm trying to remember who it is that they had in the previous round, but they were flying, and all of a sudden, goodness me, it couldn't be any worse. I thought as bad as today was, first leg at home was equally just almost comical in how poor they were.
Have you been in a game like this yourself, where it's just completely one-sided from very early on?
No, not this one-sided, not this early on. I mean, I've been on the wrong end of a couple of results, on the right end of a couple of results, but not. Well, 10 minutes in, you're 3 up, 14 minutes in, you're 4 up. No, I've never seen anything like it.
On both sides of it, Stevie, have you been involved, whether you're down a lot by that point or up a lot by that point?
I remember being down 5 at half-time against for Sheffield Wednesday against Blackburn. Not fun. It's a long night.
Where's your head at when you come out from the second half?
Well, you're looking at the clock. What's the clock? We just go like that. Blow your whistle, get us up.
What about you, Luis?
As well, I was on a 4-0 first 45 minutes. Barcelona against Malaga, we were beating 5-0 overall, and after 90 minutes, and yeah, it wasn't a fun night. Actually, it was a turning point for Barcelona. That was the last game in the first half of the season. We never lost a game in the second part of the season.
Now, it's either because it was so traumatic for you all that you remember the bad times, but I actually thought you were all better than this, and you would have been telling me stories from the other side that you're all flying, and the other teams didn't know how to come back against it. What now? All right, we want to take a look at Liverpool's schedule for what's ahead, because obviously this is a great result for them. As you say, players are going to get the chance to rest now. But when you actually look at what their possible schedule could be, if they do remain in all the competitions that they're left in, we're looking at possibly 18 games remaining in 68 days, Stevie, which is roughly a game every 3 days. I mean, it makes you tired just looking at that.
My first reaction is too many. Too many. If they had everybody to choose from, you might be able to do it in a stretch. But the problem you're going to have is the closer it gets to the end of the Premier League and the closer you get to the end of the Champions League and then you've got the FA Cup, then being able to make 4 and 5 changes every time you go on the field becomes a lot more difficult because now you have to win. You get to a period in the season where you must win, and so you have to put your best team on the field. And so it's easy peasy for us to sit here and go, well, you can make 5 changes. But if you want to win all the tournaments, you can't afford to do that. The problem with that is fatigue. And you cannot expect 11 players to play that amount of games in that amount of days and win 3 trophies. So the tough bit is going to be Klopp selecting when and who to give a rest to and who to play and who not to play.
And which competition to prioritise? Which competition would you prioritise?
Well, the Premier League has to be the number one priority.
Let's put the Premier League aside.
Then it has to be Champions League. And then it's FA Cup.
Liverpool not in Champions League.
Hey?
Europa League.
I beg your pardon.
Sorry, Steve.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. You know, I've done that all year.
Fine.
Every time I've looked up the fixtures, I keep looking
It's a champions mentality, Stevie, and we love you for it.
Like, no offence, the FA Cup comes before the Europa League. Absolutely. And this result here is one of the reasons why. And you win, what was it, 11-2 on aggregate? Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, how did you qualify for the Europa League? Well, we were 5th in the league. I mean, it's hardly mouth-watering. Absolutely, Premier League and FA Cup.
It's all right, you didn't even know they were in the Europa League anyway. Luis,
Oh, there you go.
which would you prioritise, the FA Cup or the Europa League?
I'm not used to Europa League, you know, so it's normal that our head goes straight away to Champions League. And I think that I understand when you're English player, UK player, that feeling to knowing what it means, the FA Cup, from a foreigner that we are looking from far away. I think that we prioritize sometimes the Europa League ahead of the cup that we got in the domestic leagues or in the country. But I've seen what it means, the FA Cup in England, and I know that everyone will love to put in front FA Cup if they have the chance of winning it ahead of the Europa League. So I will go as well with Premier League and FA Cup.
Luis, as a player, when you're in your prime, how hard is it to be playing so often like that and to keep getting up for each game if they are coming as thick and fast as that? We spoke to Stevie even before the show, and he was talking about in 1989 when they had just a big bulk of games and how at the end of it, they were absolutely flat out. Felt like they couldn't even lift their legs anymore.
Yeah, it's true, but honestly, I love that because there is no way, no time for training. There is no time for thinking. You always have another game where you have to focus. So I used to love it. And to be honest, back then we didn't have. It's true that we were in 3 different competitions, plus international breaks, and they were also involved. But we loved it, and we didn't want it back then, the rotation. And Rafa Benitez was one of the first managers to start the rotation, and there was always a lot of arguments with him and a lot of people that wasn't happy because of that kind of rotation. After we understood that there was no chance that, because I think it was 2006, we were having so many injuries, and then people understood that it was not possible to play every single game. But definitely, I think that from the point of view of the player, we love it because we are ready to play every single day. So that's the most important games, competition.
See, you got to remember that the rotation is the important thing. And every single player, as Luis is saying, would rather play every 3 days instead of training. You'd rather play games. But the problem is the fatigue. It's okay when you're rotating, and it's okay when you've got 5 subs. We had 2 subs. That was it. And so there was no such thing as rotation. And as much as we loved playing games and loved playing every 3 days, and we understood that if you play for Liverpool or any of the top teams around the world, you're playing sometimes every 3 days. And yes, we loved it. But there comes a point where, whether you love it or not, your legs don't work as the way they used to. And the fatigue, when it gets you, there is nothing you can do about it. As much as your head wants to, as much as your heart's pounding and you want to do better, see, when those legs can't carry you anymore, you're done.
It's then that you wish you were a goalkeeper.
Well,
I
Shaka,
never,
Hardest job on the park.
ever wish to be the
Shaka,
goalkeeper.
let me ask
Sorry.
you this, because when I mentioned that, I'd like to know what prioritising Liverpool should do. You were like, oh, that's a good question, that. So what is your answer to FA Cup or Europa League?
Well, I think the beauty of the Europa League is that if you win it, you qualify for the Champions League next season, which is the holy grail for most football clubs. But if you're a Liverpool and you're sitting comfortably in the top four in your domestic league, and it looks like you're going to qualify for the Champions League all the same, I totally understand the answer, FA Cup, to prioritize the FA Cup over the Europa League. Were you outside of the top four, you're sitting 6th or 7th, what would be the answer then? Would the Europa League take on a greater significance? And I think that's one of the challenges that Liverpool doesn't have to face right now, but that many clubs do.
Okay. Well, Liverpool have got Manchester United next.
Oh,
Like,
nice easy one.
Stevie's going to be able to get up for that. It is FA Cup.